On the Record this week. The federal government shutdown continues, with Congress deadlocked and the Trump administration placing blame squarely on Democrats.
And so, yeah, the Schumer shutdowns, the Schumer layoffs could turn into a lot of pain for the American people.
Georgians head to the polls as early voting begins in municipal elections across the state.
And Jason Carter reveals what he believes the winning strategy will be in 2026.
And I think the key is just for us as Democrats, we need to stay focused on what it is we are building.
Making his endorsement in the race for governor.
Now, from Atlanta News First, the issues that matter to you. This is On the Record.
Lawmakers in Washington showing no signs of budging. The federal government shutdown now enters another week with no clear end in sight. I'm Rick Fulbaugh.
And I'm Doug Reardon. Americans are now starting to feel the impacts of this. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers have been furloughed. That includes aviation workers like TSA agents at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, as well as air traffic controllers who are now going without paychecks.
New polling from the Associated Press finds roughly 6 in 10 Americans say President Donald Trump and Republicans in Congress deserve either a great deal or quite a bit of responsibility for the shutdown, while 54% say the same about Democrats in Congress. The Trump administration says the stalemate is taking a serious toll on the economy, especially when it comes to small businesses.
And this week, I sat down with Kelly Loeffler, a former Georgia senator and the leader of the Small Business Administration, to talk on the record. For those who don't know, what is kind of the mandate of the Small Business Administration? And since you took over as administrator, how do you think you've been doing?
The Small Business Administration is really here to provide access to capital for small businesses. And what does that mean? It means we provide a government guarantee on commercial lending. So we're not doing the direct lending, we're providing that government guarantee to thousands of small businesses. In fact, we're just coming off a record year in the agency's 72-year history of doing about 85,000 small business loans, delivering $45 billion in capital.
Kind of a tough spot for you, kind of a tough spot for businesses right now who rely on that capital. The government is shut down. What are businesses in Georgia and around the country missing out on during this time?
This economic momentum has been hit with this Schumer shutdown effectively, and that has ground lending in the SBA to a halt. It means that over 300 small businesses each and every day will not be able to close on their small business loan. That's aggregate funding of about $175 million a day that's not flowing into Main Street to hire and create those opportunities. And why? It's because they want to fund healthcare for illegal immigrants on the backs of hardworking Americans.
There are certainly concerns about misuse and fraud going on with ACA subsidies, with Medicaid use, but we've talked to a lot of Georgians who rely on those things, business owners even, who really are concerned about having to make that choice between paying their healthcare and if those prices go up, maybe having to close their business. Teresa owns a catering company. It was her dream job. She started it. Her son has type 1 diabetes. And when she heard that the ACA subsidies that she utilizes might be going away, she knew that would mean her premiums would go up. And so she decided to shutter her business and seek employment just preemptively with someone who could provide her insurance. And so this is what Teresa told us about those subsidies.
I was able to take care of all of his medical needs and afford it. I was able to pursue my dream business without worrying that one medical bill was going to take us out. It's not some boogeyman that these cuts are going to hurt. It's people like me.
What does she do?
My message is, if we can get the government open, we can have these conversations. But unfortunately, we're dealing with a law that expires, that the Democrats wrote, they set the deadline, and now they won't reopen the conversation to extend the deadline. Let's have these conversations, totally willing to have these conversations. But let's also make sure that we get the waste, fraud, and abuse out of these programs so that Teresa's premiums don't go up.
In your ideal world, what would a gubernatorial candidate in Georgia, what would their policies look like to help you do your job at the SBA?
Yeah, it's get out of the way. It's cut taxes, cut regulations. Small businesses across this country in dozens of states, they want the government to be a partner or to be invisible. And we do that with less regulation, low taxes, and fair trade. You know, a lot of people talk about tariffs, but what it means is fair trade, because small businesses have suffered because the unfair tariff regime imposed against us, our small businesses who can't export to other countries. We're changing that, and small businesses are going to be the net beneficiary.
And you can listen to my full interview with SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler right now. Just subscribe to the On the Record podcast from Atlanta News First.
And let's welcome in our panel now. Melissa Klink is the third vice chair of Forsyth County Democrats, the founder of Klink Creative Strategies. And Courtney Kramer is with us, chairwoman of Protecting Democracy PAC and former Republican nominee for Fulton County District Attorney. Ladies, welcome to you both. Thank you for going on the record.
Yeah, and so I think the obvious question, Courtney, is what is it going to take for this shutdown to end?
You know, I think the main thing we have to remember is that the Democrats are playing a political game right now. They're trying to use the budget as a mechanism to get things passed, when in reality, you know, America is sick of these, of spending money on things that do not matter. You know, we need to first protect Americans, but instead the Democrats are trying to protect non-citizens, illegal aliens, and hardworking Americans. And that's gonna, once that stops and once that ends, maybe we will see, a budget get passed and our government reopen.
Melissa, what is it going to take for the Democrats to feel the heat politically? We just heard from Kelly Loeffler. She and other Republicans are branding this the Schumer shutdown, talking, of course, about the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. So what do you think it'll take?
So I think Democrats have actually already felt the heat, and the reason why we felt the heat is we know that the Congressional Budget Office has said that 10 to 17 million people are going to lose their health care if these subsidies don't go through. The Democrats are not going to budge on this, and we have already seen Republican senators have started reaching out behind the scenes to nonprofit groups to find out who they are in contact with, who are going to be affected by these subsidies, and so that they can bring that to the forefront. I will say that Loeffler is doing a good job of towing the party line as far as using that alliteration, but I like my alliterations to be more honest, right? So 78% of Georgians support having a healthcare subsidies, and what I want to make clear is that not having subsidies, even if you don't go to the healthcare marketplace for subsidies, your insurance rates your premiums will increase because there will be less people. We're talking 10 to 17 million out of the insurance pool, which will make everyone else who has a good job, has good benefits right now today, that will change next year if we do not stand our ground. And the GOP and the Republicans are in control of every branch of government right now, and this shutdown just proves that Republicans don't know how to govern.
What is your alliteration? Did you come up with something?
No, I don't have. No, I think we can go with the Trump shutdown. So there's not really a good, the Schumer tying that. It rolls off the tongue a lot better, right?
I mean, Courtney, so much of this is about public opinion. It is about branding. It is about convincing the voters out there that the other party is to blame. In fact, we've seen some video messages that were recorded by the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem.
It is TSA's top priority to make sure that you have the most pleasant and efficient airport experience as possible while we keep you safe. However, Democrats in Congress refuse to fund the federal government.
Are Republicans going too far in trying to shame the Democrats?
Kristi Noem should not be using that office for political gain or partisan politics and games. That is a Hatch Act violation, or could be a Hatch Act violation, and doing so I just think is kind of a waste of government money right now, and we don't need to be doing that or pushing that message out there. She needs to be, making sure that Americans know that they are safe, that the Department of Transportation is going to be doing their job, that airports are going to be running smoothly and effectively, and I don't think that making it a political opinion and putting a video out like that is necessary at all. Correct.
And Hartsfield-Jackson is not showing that video.
They're not.
As are a number of other airports around the country not showing the video. Still ahead, I sit down with Jason Carter on the record to talk about why he's taking sides in the Georgia governor's race. On the record right now, a politician well known to Republican and Democratic voters wants to be Georgia's next Secretary of State. Vernon Jones announcing his candidacy last week. Jones began his political career as a Democrat, serving in the state House from 1993 to 2001 and again from 2017 to 2021. He was also the DeKalb County CEO from 2001 to 2009. He switched parties, becoming a Republican in 2021 after endorsing President Trump. Jones is running against former Secretary of State Chief Operating Officer Gabriel Sterling, State Representative Tim Fleming, and former U.S. Senate candidate Kelvin King in the Republican primary. On the Democratic side, former Fulton County Judge Penny Brown Reynolds and political newcomer Adrian Constaneri Jr. are in the running. Current Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger is running for governor.
And President Donald Trump says he still hasn't made a decision on who he'll endorse in the 2026 race for U.S. Senate here in Georgia, but he says he knows all the candidates and he's paying close attention.
I haven't made a decision on that, but you have some very good people in the Georgia Senate race.
Well, Governor has endorsed.
No, I know the governor has, and he's spoken to me about it a lot. He likes that candidate a lot, and I understand that. I haven't made a decision yet, but I'm following that race very carefully.
And Trump, of course, mentioning Derek Dooley, who was endorsed by Governor Brian Kemp just a few weeks ago. 4 Republican candidates are trying to unseat Democratic incumbent Jon Ossoff, who has been a vocal critic of the Trump administration.
And we're back with the panel. So, Courtney, why do you think President Trump has yet to endorse someone in this race? Because he's already made an endorsement in the Republican race for governor.
I think that he's trying to be very strategic with this because he knows that his endorsement could sway voters immensely in this race. You know, the main goal is to get Ossoff out of office, and whoever President Trump endorses, it's going to be pivotal. And his endorsement, he doesn't want to have to rescind an endorsement. We have a long time till the primary. You have to remember that. And even from the primary to the general, we got a year. So we have a 365 days almost for that endorsement to either be very good or be very bad for Republicans. And I think he's taking his time, thank God, and trying to figure out who the best candidate is in this race.
Yeah, and Melissa, we know that polling has shown that Mike Collins may be the best person to do that. And so if Collins or any other candidate in the Republican race for that matter were looking to exploit a weakness in the Ossoff campaign, do you think there is one that is glaring?
So I think that Mike Collins is going to have more than good genes to go up against Senator Ossoff. And what I think that's going to be important to voters is to watch actions and not words, right? So we know that Senator Ossoff has voted 8 times to reopen the government, and Mike Collins hasn't been to work in 3 weeks. So I think that that's what's important right now to American voters and Georgia voters. And I would also say that, to your point, it's so far away. So polls are really kind of just your best guess right now. Okay, we're a year and a month away from that election.
Yeah, we still have a while to go, certainly.
Well, we mentioned the governor's race, and then President Jimmy Carter's grandson, Jason Carter, is now endorsing someone, a longtime friend of his, in Georgia's nationally watched governor's race. And had Jason Carter's wife not gotten sick, he might be the candidate receiving endorsements. Instead, he's throwing his support behind former state senator Jason Estevez. Carter, who says his wife is doing okay, told me he believes that Estevez has the wisdom and the heart to lead the state when I sat down with him on the record. Jason Carter, thanks so much for talking to us today.
Thanks for having me.
You know Jason Estevez well. You have for a long time. Why endorse him now? Why are you supporting him, and why are you endorsing him publicly today?
The Democratic primary has this remarkable stable of candidates, right? I mean, highly qualified people, smart people that I like and respect. I love Keisha Lance Bottoms. I think that her profile has been wonderful. I think, of course, you know, she's well known to folks out there in Atlanta. I think Michael Thurmond is great, but I think I think Rua is great. But I think we're in a moment right now where Jason is the type of leader that we need and can bring us together as Democrats and then can bring us together as Georgians. And I think that's what we need. Is there an area that you think is sort of right there, right for the taking, that Jason Estevez can really go after sort of getting and earning the support of moderate Republican voters? Sure, I think there's 2 issues right off the bat, and he's perfectly positioned on both. First of all, he's been in the state Senate. He knows how to work across the aisle. He understands the issues that are out there. And when you get outside of Atlanta, the 2 major issues are education and healthcare. And Jason has been on the school board of a big school district, but he's also traveled the state talking about public education, understanding the issues in these school districts. That is something that brings people together.
How about on the Republican side? Is there a candidate in the Republican field as it stands right now that you think poses the biggest threat to a Democrat trying to win the governor's mansion?
I think any of the Republicans that are running right now can win a general election. And I think it's really, there's an identity crisis to some extent in the Republican Party that is to the extent to which it's going to be dominated or not by the president. And we'll have to see how that turns out over the next like 12 or 13 months. But I know those guys, and I think all of them are formidable. And when you look back at the 2024 election, you see really a national moment that tilted towards President Trump. But you think Georgia, frankly, tilted less than a lot of other places. And I think we're in a position now in this state where candidates matter, right? In our last election, we elected a Republican governor, Democratic senator. So we are a place where we have a competitive dialogue, and we need to engage in that.
I want to finish up by asking you about your grandfather, whose life and legacy has been celebrated here in Georgia and around the world. My grandfather died years ago, but I can still hear his voice sometimes, and I feel like it guides me when I'm faced with a big decision. What do you hear when you hear your grandfather's voice?
Well, I hear him a lot, right? I mean, I spent 49 years with my grandfather, and one of the great benefits of his long life is that I got to spend a long time with him, including the last 20 years or so, really working together on Carter Center issues and other things. But to me, it's just the ability to respect the person that you're with and the person that you know is across the street or down across the aisle or down the road. And his understanding, you know, and his faith belief that every person is created in the image of God, that you love your neighbor as yourself. He defined that neighbor so broadly as to include almost everyone. And the ability to love and respect people across differences, across geographic boundaries, across racial boundaries, across religious boundaries, it was something that drove him. And I think that that's one of the things that I focus on in my daily life, and just try to respect people. And I can hear him saying that, but I can also see him doing it, and that's the most powerful lesson that I carry.
Jason Carter, thank you so much.
You too.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
All right, Melissa, so how much does Jason Carter's endorsement mean in this race? Because we know that so far, at least, it looks as though Keisha Lance Bottoms, the former Atlanta mayor, has a pretty big lead over the other Democrats.
Well, I would say, first of all, of course, Jason Carter and the Carter family are well respected within Democratic circles in Georgia politics in general. I would say that endorsements really kind of open the door for larger donors to jump into the race. Whereas it doesn't really play to voters. I don't think voters really are concerned with endorsements as much as political people are, right? And I would say for this race, as far as what we just said, that it's so far away, these polls are really, really kind of premature in finding out who the real pick is. And it's what's going to be important is how are these candidates connecting to voters all across Georgia? They're going to have to connect with people from 18 to 99 with the same message all over Georgia, and that's what it's going to take to win the governor's race. It's not necessarily going to be an endorsement.
Yeah, and Courtney, you heard Jason Carter say that Jason Estevez was a formidable candidate. From the Republican perspective, size him up in this race.
You know, I think that right now Republicans are just trying to figure out who our candidate is going to be. And if you look back on the previous governor's elections between Kemp, at least, you know, originally with Stacey Abrams, and then most recently, you know, Republicans have to get out the vote to even have a fighting chance in winning the governor's race, regardless of who the Democrat candidate is going to be. The last two election cycles have been very, very close, and it's going to be getting out that 18 to, you know, 95 years old, you know, to try to get Republicans to come out and vote. So no matter who the Democrat candidate is going to be, it's going to really hinge on that voter turnout for Republicans overall.
Courtney, Melissa, thank you both. Still ahead, the polls are open. Early voting is underway in important races across Georgia.
Early voting is now underway across Georgia.
That's right. It's your chance to decide who's in charge in city halls across the state. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens is up for re-election. He hosted an early voting rally last week to encourage voter participation. Councilwoman Marcy Collier Overstreet was there as well. Dickens has endorsed Overstreet in the city council president election. She faces tough competition, though. Nonprofit leader Rohit Malhotra is challenging Overstreet in that race. He's well known throughout the city as a public policy advocate.
And voters south of Atlanta have a big decision to make as well. 9 candidates are running to become the next mayor of South Fulton, including Democratic incumbent Mayor Khalid Kobi Kamau. The embattled Democrat has been under intense scrutiny after a city audit found he spent thousands in taxpayer dollars on unapproved personal expenses.
4 candidates are fighting for your votes in the Sandy Springs mayoral race. Incumbent Mayor Rusty Paul is running for re-election, but he's facing some competition in Andy Bauman, Dante Carter, and Jody Reichel. That race was rocked last week by the leak of an email Paul wrote in 2021, calling himself, quote, a tired puppy with no gas left in the tank to do the job of being mayor. One opponent questioned how he could run for another term after being tired 4 years ago. Paul, who is running for a 4th term, said he now feels refueled.
And again, early voting is happening right now through October 31st. Election day, of course, November 4th. If you don't know where to vote or who's on your ballot, that's easy. Scan the code right there on your screen to download the free Atlanta News First app, where you can find all the information you need before you head to the ballot box.
And that's our show for this Sunday. Thanks to our panel, Melissa Klink and Courtney Kramer.
And of course, thanks as always to you for watching. We'll see you next Sunday.